Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If I can have your attention, I need to make an announcement. I am Jean Culpepper. I directed tonight's play, and the circumstances surrounding our production are a little on the rocky side. I was very flattered when Billy St. John, who wrote Murders in the Air, and air spelled as in H-E-I-R, Murders in the Air, get it? Yes. Well, as I was saying, I was flattered when Mr. St. John contacted me and asked me to direct the play for this premiere production. Actually, it was a work in progress, and he made changes and rewrites throughout the entire rehearsal period. While it was quite exciting to be a part of creating a brand new work, to tell you the truth, it put quite a strain on me, and the playwright, and the cast.
You got that right.
Hush, Justin. Sorry about that. The fact is, the cast and I are feeling a little nervous about tonight's show because, well, it's not quite finished. But oh, don't worry. We're going to go on. The show must go on, as someone once said. I don't know who said it, but I love to get my hands around their neck. But anyways, as I was saying, the play isn't quite finished. You see, it is a murder mystery, and most of the characters have great motives to kill. Well, you'll see who. The thing is, Mr. St. John couldn't make up his mind which character should be the killer. In fact, he wrote multiple different endings in which the various suspects were revealed to be the murderer. We performed them all for him, and he still couldn't decide. As it got closer and closer to the opening night, the tension in the air, that's A-I-R, grew so thick you could cut it with a knife. It got so bad that Mr. St. John had to feel sure proved to be a mental breakdown. The reason he wasn't here tonight is because he is presently under heavy sedation and is in a nice place with soft paddings and lots of walls. Some people have all the luck. But the cast and crew are here, though, and we are determined to provide an entertaining show for you, even if it kills us. Oh, it just might. But that's a figure of speech, of course. But this brings me to my main point, to announce to you that you have helped us. If you've been on the website, you had the opportunity to vote on who was most likely to be the killer. As you watch the first act, you'll discover which characters have a motive to murder someone, a person who will, indeed, be dead by the time the act ends. We will tally the votes, and for the second act, the cast will perform the scene Mr. St. John wrote that the character the majority of you chose as the murderer. At least we'll hope that will happen. It got really confusing during rehearsals.
It's a wonder we didn't kill the playwright.
Quiet! Oh my god. Look, we might as well get started. I'll be watching over, where I can follow along in the script and maybe help out if anything gets a little shaky. Which they won't, but just in case. Are you guys ready? Cast?
As ready as we're gonna be.
Then, let's do it. Places.
A storm rages outside of Starkweather Mansion, sending cold, white light through the shears on the French doors. Nancy Pollard, the maid, enters from the kitchen. She is carrying a silver tray with a silver tea set. She steps down and places the tea set on the table. Miss Withers enters through the door. She is a stern woman, a nurse, and her hair is pulled back severely into a bun.
Nancy, please! You know Mr. Starkweather is resting in his bedroom just through that doorway. You mustn't startle him.
I'm sorry, Miss Withers, but you startled me.
My apologies, but I dare say a slight scare will do you no harm. However, a sudden shock to a man in his 90s in Mr. Starkweather's medical condition could prove fatal. Remember that, girl.
Yes, ma'am. I guess this terrible storm has made me a little edgy.
Yes, it is a tempestuous evening. I presume all of the guests have been shown to their rooms?
Yes, Miss Withers. Well, all but Mr. Starkweather's grandson, Mr. Simon III. It's a long drive from his college, and the storm, you know.
I hope we can start without him. It's already past Mr. Starkweather's bedtime, and he must have his sleep.
Miss Withers frowns and wipes the fingertips of one hand across the end table. Miss Trent enters from the archway. Miss Trent is the housekeeper, a dour woman.
I assure you, Miss Withers, the room is spotlessly clean.
Well, I certainly hope so. Mr. Starkweather's asthmatic condition makes the merest mote of dust potentially lethal.
I served as Mr. Starkweather's housekeeper for many years before you came here, Miss Withers. I don't need you to tell me how to do my job. Nancy, you brought the coffee?
It's right here on the table, Mrs. Trent.
Then go back to the kitchen and help Minerva with the rest of the refreshments.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Starkweather gave specific instructions that he wished to have everyone present in the drawing room at 8 o'clock sharp. I'll ask Bensonhurst to fetch the guests from their rooms.
Mr. Starkweather will be ready. I'm coming, Mr. Starkweather.
Miss Withers crosses to the door and exits. Bensonhurst, the butler, enters left of the archway and crosses to the foot of the staircase. Before he can continue, he hears the sound of the front door open. He turns to face Rufus Jones, the handyman. At the moment, he wears a yellow plastic raincoat, hat, and boots, all gleam with a sheen of water.
I done got all the cars parked in the garages, like you told me.
As I told you, Oh, why waste my breath? You're dripping water all over the foyer. Why did you enter through the front door, Rufus? I've told you a million times the servants never enter through the front door.
Oh, I reckon I forgot, Mr. Bensonhurst. Besides, it's raining out there.
I am aware of that. It now looks as if it has been raining in here as well, thanks to you.
You're welcome.
Go back out the way you came and maneuver yourself around to the back door. Do you think you can manage that?
Well, I don't know, but I suppose I'm gonna find out.
When the final guest, young Mr. Simon, arrives, I'll summon you so you can park his car for him.
Ooh, good. While I'm waiting, I'll sit by the stove and see if I can grow gills.
Don't be impertinent.
How can I be if I don't know what impertinent means?
Just do as you're told. Go to the kitchen and wait there until I call for you. Not that way! Have you forgotten already that I told you to go around to the back door?
Nope, but I was hoping you had.
That man is an idiot.
I heard that.
Where do you want me to put this one, Minerva?
On the coffee table. Careful with it.
Yes, ma'am. I think everything is ready.
You think wrong. Place the cups on the saucers so all we'll have to do is pour the coffee.
Yes, Minerva.
The others are coming down. Miss Van Zandt informed me that Mr. Starkweather wishes the staff to be present as well.
He wants the servants here?
Precisely. Even Rufus. Had I been informed of the fact sooner, I would have ordered him to take a bath. He has been out in the rain parking cars, so perhaps that would have helped.
If you ask me, Noah's flood wouldn't help.
Well, be that as it may, I shall summon him and Mrs. Trent.
Why would Mr. Starkweather want the servants to be here?
I'll pull on my crystal ball and let you know. Do you remember what I told you when you came to work here?
Yes, ma'am. Do as you're told and don't ask questions.
Exactly. Stick to that.
I will, Minerva.
Fiona enters with her son, Jordan Starkweather.
Oh dear,
I never know what to wear on special occasions. I suppose Uncle Simon inviting us here is a special occasion, isn't it, Jordan?
I suppose so when you consider that most of the time he treats us like lepers.
You think Simon treats us like those jungle cats?
Lepers, Mother, not leopards. Oh, forget it. And don't worry, Mother, you look fine.
Thank you, son.
I'll tell you one thing. If we should ever inherit this mausoleum, the first thing we'll do is call up the Adams family and let them know it's on the market.
Counting chickens, are we?
Minerva, we didn't see you and your attractive young helper there.
Nancy's a nice girl, and I mean for her to stay that way.
I'm sure I don't know what you mean.
I doubt that.
I don't understand.
I believe that. Miss Fiona, why don't you have a seat and I'll bring you a cup of coffee?
Coffee, oh, that sounds nice. It's a little damp in here.
That's because it's a lot damp out there. How do you take your coffee?
Mother prefers hers black. I like mine sweet. I'll flavor it myself.
Whatever.
Oh, what lovely hors d'oeuvres. These are delicious.
Glad you like them.
You're looking very pretty tonight, Nancy.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, that makes me feel as old as great Uncle Simon. Now please, call me Jordan.
She'll call you Mr. Starkweather the way a proper maid should. If anyone calls you another name, it'll be me, and you don't want to know which one I'm thinking.
Ha, Minerva, you never change.
Neither do you. More's the pity. Now take a seat next to your mother.
Yes, Drill Sergeant.
Paula enters with Kathy Collins.
My goodness, Kathy, I don't see how y'all can stand living out here in the boonies, away from fine restaurants and movies and shopping centers. Why, I get so depressed, I just sit down and weep.
Well, it's not that bad, Paula. I stay here during the week and I go back to my apartment in town most weekends.
I'm so relieved to hear that.
I worked for a larger corporation before Mr. Starkweather hired me to be his personal secretary, and believe me, this position is much better.
Look what we have here. 2 rays of sunshine to dispel the gloom. You look beautiful, ladies.
I swear, Cousin Jordan, you are a rogue and a charmer.
I do my best. Won't you join us?
Have a seat over there. You'll be safer. We'll bring you some coffee.
Thank you, Minerva. I take mine black.
Load mine down with lots of cream and sugar. I must admit, I have an enormous sweet tooth.
Maybe that's what causes that corn syrup accent.
And how are you this evening, Cousin Fiona?
What? Oh, I'm very well. Thank you, Paula.
That's just peachy. I swear, I don't know why we don't see more of one another. It seems like the only time we get together is for somebody's funeral.
Well, aren't all funerals for somebody?
Oh, shame on you. Don't be morbid, Cousin Jordan. I'm glad this weekend's an exception to the rule. For once, no one is dead.
Well, so far, anyways.
Oh,
That's okay, honey. You didn't spill any.
And, what did you mean by that remark, Jordan?
Oh, it's nothing. It's just that when you called to tell us that great Uncle Simon wanted Mother and me to come to Starkweather Mansion for the weekend, at first I assumed you were going to say that he had passed on.
You wish.
I started to pack my new black dress.
It was a natural assumption. I mean, he is up in his years and in bad health. I was relieved to find out the old boy is still with us, of course.
Huh?
Kathy, darling, I bet you know why Great Uncle Simon desired our presence this Friday evening. Come on, tell.
Mrs. Van Zandt will go into all of the particulars, but I do believe that Mr. Starkweather wishes to discuss his will.
Really?
I'd appreciate it if you didn't drool on the hors d'oeuvres.
You misjudged me, Minerva. I was surprised, that's all.
Uh-huh.
Well, where's Cousin Simon? Shouldn't he be here too?
When I contacted him last week, he said that he could make it, but apparently he's going to be late. And even if we tried to call him tonight, it wouldn't go through because the phone lines are down.
Well, if we're gonna talk about the will, he should be here. After all, he is Great Uncle Simon's only grandchild.
Yeah, and he'll probably get everything.
Sorry, excuse me a minute. I hate to interrupt. You guys are doing great. Really, you are. Folks, I suggested to Mr. St. John that these family relationship might be a little confusing. He agreed, and we were going to write a scene that explained everything. He just, while we were working on it, kind of snapped like a rubber band. So, I'll just tell you. Here's the way it works. Simon Starkweather, the old billionaire, whom you'll meet shortly, married late in his life and produced one son, Simon Jr. Simon Jr. in turn married and produced one heir, Simon III, the college student who's late for all the gatherings. The original Miss Starkweather, Simon II, and his wife are now deceased. Old Simon's eldest brother, Paul, had a daughter, Bella, who married Lucien Thompson, an Atlanta businessman, and they produced $1. Paula here. Paul, his wife, Bella, and Lucien are now deceased. Old Simon's younger brother, John, married and produced Ezra, who married Fiona here, and they had Jordan. But you know that already. Anyways, John, his wife, and Ezra are now deceased. I realize that is a lot of dead people, but if I had to be included in all the play, the stage would look like a marching band wandered into the living room. And believe me, it was hard enough moving everyone around the stage as it was. At any rate, old Simon is Fiona's uncle by marriage and is Jordan and Paula's great uncle. This makes Jordan, Paula, and young Simon cousins. Second or third, I guess. I don't really understand how that works. I hope this clears everything up for you. Sorry for the interruption again. Carry on.
We don't have the foggiest notion of where we are.
I'm not even sure who I am anymore.
Sorry, that's my bad. Yes, resume with Marcus and Dennis's entrance. Thomas.
Huh.
Give them their entrance cue.
What is it?
He'll probably get everything.
Who will?
Your cousin Simon.
Oh, right. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, and he'll probably get everything.
I'm very pleased with your investigation. I'll be glad to recommend you to my other clients.
Just doing my job, Mr. Van Zandt.
Good evening, everyone.
I know we haven't met yet, but I'm pretty sure I know who you all must be. Mrs. Starkweather and her son Jordan, right?
That's right. Mr.
Davis. Call me Mike.
From what Miss Van Zandt just said, I assume he must be some sort of investigator?
You got it. The private kind.
I see.
Who is this nice young man, dear?
He is a detective, Mother.
A detective? How exciting! Do you know Inspector Gadget?
No, ma'am. He's way out of my league. I do know who you two ladies must be.
If you're a private investigator, I'd be surprised if you didn't.
That accent settles it. You're Paula Thompson.
You're 100% correct. I can't deny it. I'm from the deep south.
If you came from any deeper south, you live in Central America.
So that leaves you to be Kathy Collins. It's nice to finally meet you.
Me too, Mike. Mike and I have corresponded for some time by mail and by fax on Mr. Starkweather's behalf.
Is the seat taken? Nope. I'll park it here.
And I expect you to remain unobtrusive.
I sure will, as soon as I find a dictionary and look it up.
Just sit over there by the fire and keep quiet.
But a fire? I'm glad to. My backside's still kind of soggy.
Would you keep an eye on him?
I shall do my best.
Well, if all is in readiness, Mr. Van Zandt, I shall inform Mr. Starkweather.
Yes. Thank you, Bensonhurst.
There's coffee if anybody else wants some.
I could use some coffee, Minerva.
How do you take it?
In a cup? Where else?
Black, please.
Rufus, keep still.
Miss Van Zandt, I understand Great Uncle Simon has asked us here to talk about his will.
That is correct. Frankly, I did not think it was a good idea. Mr. Starkweather's health is precarious at best, and he doesn't need the excitement. I advised him to communicate with you by mail, but he insisted on summoning you to the Starkweather mansion. I only hope he doesn't live to regret that decision.
Miss Withers is bringing Mr. Starkweather in to join us.
Can I move now?
Trent waves a hand at him dismissively. Withers enters, pushing Simon Starkweather in a wheelchair. Simon looks every day of his 90 years. If he has any hair, it is snow white. There are liver spots on his skull and hands, and blue veins stand out on his hands as well. He wears pajamas and a bathrobe, 2 sizes too large so that he looks shrunken inside his clothes. He is like an ancient lion, once powerful but weakened by time. There is a bag on the back of the chair. Inside it is an oversized blood pressure cuff and a stethoscope. An oxygen tank is also attached to the chair.
Here you are, Mr. Starkweather.
Go! Go!
I'll be right here if you need me.
To think, I was once surrounded by presidents and kings. Can my world have shrunk to this? A handful of relatives and a meager staff of hired help. Simon, where's my grandson?
We presume that he's on his way, Mr. Starkweather.
I can't wait for him. Not enough time anymore.
Good evening, Great Uncle Simon. You're looking well.
Are you blind, boy? Or just a habitual liar?
I was only making pleasantries, Uncle.
Save your breath. You've always been a smooth talker, Jordan. But that doesn't cut any ice with me. You're nothing but a greedy opportunist, boy. I ought to know. I was one myself at your age.
Then I guess it runs in the family.
You have a point. Well, Fiona, you look the same.
I do? Why, thank you, Uncle Simon.
It wasn't necessarily meant as a compliment.
Great Uncle Simon, you're awful.
At my age, and with my money, I can afford to say exactly what I think. And I do. And how is my little Georgia Peach?
Little old May. I'm just peachy, Uncle. I may barf. Would you care for some coffee, Mr. Starkweather?
No, 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 he mustn't have any. The caffeine would keep him awake, and it could affect his blood pressure. Sometimes his medication causes it to run a little high.
Apparently I won't be having any, Minerva. You heard my keeper.
Yes, sir.
Everyone aspires to live to be an ripe old age, and for what? To be kept alive by medicines and machines, to be prevented from enjoying so much of life's little pleasures like a cup of coffee?
Oh, you mustn't excite yourself, Mr. Starkweather.
You see, I'm not even allowed to feel any strong emotions.
That's a bummer.
You put it very succinctly, Rufus. Old age is a bummer. I could have searched my vocabulary extensively and never come up with such an apt description. Bummer.
Huh. Glad you like it.
According to my doctors, I won't have to remain a prisoner in this weak, old body much longer. There's only one thing I hate to leave behind. My money.
You know what they say, Uncle. You can't take it with you.
Yes, that's why they say. So, several years ago, I had Lois here draw up my will. I suppose you'd like to know how I provided for you, my heirs.
I, for one, admit I'm a teensy bit curious.
A teensy bit, eh?
Ugh, I was afraid something like this would happen. Here, Mr. Starkweather, breathe deeply. See what you've done, Paula?
Me? I didn't.
Should someone call an ambulance?
We can't. The phones are dead.
It's all right. He lost his breath. He just needs to breathe pure oxygen for a few moments.
Lois, tell them.
Very well. This is the will Mr. Starkweather was referring to. As you know, he has been a phenomenally successful businessman for many years.
I'll say, he's been on the cover of Forbes magazine at least a dozen times.
I never read any of them.
He has the distinction of becoming one of the world's first billionaires.
20 years ago, I begged dear Ezra to ask his Uncle Simon to advise him on his business investments, but he was too proud.
Yeah, Dad and his pride. Lots of pride and very little money.
If I may continue, Mr. Starkweather's fortune is now in the neighborhood of $50 billion.
What?
Wow, that much?
Oh my god.
If I'd known that, I would have asked for a raise.
I won't go into the details of the will, but it essentially bequeaths $1 million to each of his household staff. Mr. Bensonhurst, his butler, Mrs. Trent, his housekeeper, Minerva Walker, his cook, Miss Withers, his nurse, Nancy Pollard, his maid, and Rufus Jones, his handyman.
Oh, forget the raise.
Oh, Mr. Starkweather, I had no idea.
The will goes on to state that the rest of the money is to be divided equally among his surviving relatives. They are his grandson, Simon III, his niece, Fiona Starkweather, and her son, Jordan, who share 1/3, and his great-niece, Paula Thompson.
Isn't that nice?
I always knew you'd do right by us, Uncle.
I know you got mad when Mama married a Southern boy, Great Uncle Simon, but you two must have agreed on one thing. Blood is thicker than water.
I bet Miss Withers could tell you if it is.
Now that I've informed you of the will's contents, I have another announcement to make. As of tomorrow, this will becomes invalid.
What mockery is this?
Why?
Excuse me?
I have a question. What does invalid mean?
It means no good.
Oh, I got a brother that's invalid.
Mr. Van Zant means we're not gonna get the money, you fool.
Oh, guess I won't be buying that big screen TV after all.
Sit. You too, Lois.
Why did you decide to disinherit us, Uncle?
Each.
50,000 out of 50 billion?
Lois advised me it would be a good idea to leave you a little something. That way, you'd be less likely to be able to contest my new will.
New will?
Yes, that's why I asked Kathy to stay over at the Starkweather mansion this weekend to type it up, nice and legal for my signature. Mr. Davis, as a disinterested party, can witness the signing. Lois will file it at the courthouse come Monday.
Mr. Davis said he's a detective, so what did you hire him to do?
Mr. Starkweather hired me to on an investigation. For 6 months, I've been traveling the world, looking at the world's greatest scientists, until I found one in Belgium. Let's call him Dr. X. See, he keeps his experiments on the hush-hush, and he has agreed to do what Mr. Starkweather desires. To clone himself.
Oh my lord, there is no way.
What?
Clone?
Oh my goodness!
That's insane!
What nonsense.
You must be kidding.
It's immortal.
I don't understand.
Good. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Those blood and skin samples you had me prepare? The ones you said would be examined by specialists?
Oh, well, they were sent to specialist Withers, specialists in DNA.
I thought you were trying to find a cure.
I was. Not a cure for my various ailments, but a cure for dying. And I did find it.
Cloning?
Precisely. Through modern science, I shall live forever.
It's not right.
That's neither here nor there. Let the moralists and the politicians debate that question for decades to come. In the meantime, Dr. X, as Davis named him, will be creating a brand new me. Sit down, Withers. The lot of you seem to be displeased. Not, I suspect, because of the moral question, but because of your change in fortune. Too bad. Cloning is very expensive, especially since the process I require must be done in absolute secrecy. But I will still have a sizable fortune left for the new me to inherit. No doubt, I will be the first person on Earth to become my own heir. Withers, my blood pressure.
Yes, Mr. Starkweather. If you'll excuse us, I need to take Mr. Starkweather's blood pressure.
Why don't you take it right here?
Mr. Starkweather's arms are too frail for me to get a reading from them. This is an outsized cuff, made to go around a patient's thigh. He can stand the pressure from the inflated cuff better there. Mr. Starkweather has had enough excitement for one evening. I shall put him to bed.
I guess our meeting has concluded, unless anyone has any questions.
Ooh, I do. What the heck was that all about?
It's simple, Rufus. Uncle Simon was going to leave us all a fortune, but he changed his mind. Instead, he's decided to clone himself.
What does clone mean?
It means you take cells from one person's body and you make an exact duplicate of the same person's body.
That can happen? That's great! When old Mrs. Starkweather passes away, maybe I can get a new job working for the new Mrs. Starkweather.
The new Mr. Starkweather will have to be born and grow up. It goes against the laws of nature. How?
It has all been arranged. Once Dr. X has created new life, the cells will be implanted into the host mother, who will carry the child to term.
Host mother? Who?
Me.
Kathy?
Why not? I'm young and I'm healthy, and I'll make a good mother for little Simon.
How could you ever consider being part of this travesty?
Well, I'll be compensated. Besides, have you ever known anyone else to give birth to a baby billionaire?
Uncle Simon is giving his money to a baby?
In a manner of speaking, yes. The new will places Mr. Starkweather's fortune into a trust fund, which I'll administer. I'll release the money to pay Dr. X and his staff to perform the cloning procedure. After that, ample funds will be available to provide for Kathy's needs and the child's upbringing and education. Once he's grown and properly trained to deal in high finance, the fortune will be turned over to him.
The kid will look, think, and act like Mr. Starkweather. By the time he's an old man, he'll turn those millions and billions into trillions.
But for what purpose? Leave it to another clone, then another, and another. Where will it end? When there's a Simon Starkweather with enough money and power to rule the world?
We didn't discuss it, but you might well be right.
I can't believe you condone such madness.
Oh, I can see why she would. Miss Van Zant and the Collins girl will live like billionaires themselves off Mr. Starkweather's money. Money that should have gone to us and his family. I guess you'll get rich too, since you're part of this scheme.
Not me. I did my job. I got paid what I was supposed to do. It was a very generous check, and I'm gonna go home. Frankly, I don't care if this experiment works or not.
You should be ashamed. You should all be ashamed.
Well, I believe you made your feelings quite clear, ladies. If you and the other servants will join me, I wish to speak to all of you in the kitchen. We'll clear after you've finished. I trust you'll ring if you require anything else.
I mean, it might be kind of nice hearing all the pitter-patter of feet around the house. Tip-tap, tip-tap.
Oh, shut up, Rufus.
Kathy and I will retire to my room. You might as well begin typing up the new will tonight. I'll direct you on how to put everything in proper legal terms.
Sure thing, Lois. The sooner it's finished and signed, the better.
Hey, wait a minute. How come nobody asked me if I wanted to carry the baby? I could do it as well as she can.
You're Mr. Starkweather's bloodkin, Paula. It wouldn't be proper.
I guess it would be kinda tacky.
Proper? You're about to conduct an experiment that makes Frankenstein look like an amateur, and you're worried about being proper.
Cool it, kid, before you burst a blood vessel. Mr. Starkweather has made up his mind, and I got a feeling that the old man gets what he wants.
Succinctly put, Mr. Davis. Kathy?
I'll go upstairs and pack. After I witness the signing tomorrow, I won't have to stick here any longer. Night.
We were robbed.
We were?
Yes, Mother. Great Uncle Simon dangled a fortune in front of our noses, then snatched it away.
That was mean.
Mean? The man is a monster. Didn't you see the evil glint in his eye? He enjoyed pulling the rug right out from under our feet.
At least he is leaving us 50,000.
To him, that's no more than tossing a dime to a beggar. And you heard him. He's just doing it to keep us from breaking his new will.
Yeah.
I wish you were dead. I wish the old goat would just drop dead tonight.
It would serve him right.
If Uncle Simon did die tonight, then we'd get all our money, wouldn't we, my dears? Oh, would anyone care for a game of bridge?
It is later that night. The storm has passed, and moonlight is seen through the French doors.
A penny for your thoughts. That's all I can afford to pay now anyways.
Mr. Starkweather.
It's Jordan, remember? At least when Minerva the dragon lady isn't around.
I thought everyone had gone to bed.
I also was going to turn in, but I got an urge for a midnight snack.
I'll fix you something.
Never mind. What are you doing up?
Mrs. Trent sent me in here to make sure the fire screen was properly closed so no sparks would pop out onto the rug.
And burn Starkweather Mansion to the ground? Maybe that wouldn't be such a bad idea.
You shouldn't talk like that. You know Mr. Starkweather is an invalid. How could he?
You read my mind.
Jordan!
Got you to call me by my first name.
You mustn't even suggest such a thing. It's wicked.
And why should that surprise you? Everyone knows that I'm the black sheep in the family. If it happened tonight, you'd have $1 million, and I'd have billions. Think of the good times we could have together.
Don't.
It's a tempting thought, admit it.
It's not. It's a horrible idea.
Which part? Getting the money or you and me together?
The part about the money.
Well, what about us?
I.
Jordan leans in to kiss her, but she is startled when she sees Minerva enter.
Nancy, I thought you were going to help me with the dishes.
I'm just checking the French doors, Minerva, to make sure they're locked.
I see. And what are you doing in here?
I came down for a snack when I saw Nancy here. I stopped for a little chat.
That appetite of yours is going to get you in trouble one of these days.
Minerva, what are you doing with that knife?
Mincing onions.
At midnight?
Well, I can't stand to have anyone see me cry. I thought I heard someone in here and came to check. If you're hungry, come with me. I'll find you something.
Yes, Minerva. Anything you say, Minerva.
Finish checking and then come give me a hand, Nancy.
Yes, ma'am.
Come on.
Rufus? I thought I heard someone come in.
It was just me, sir.
So I see. Good grief, man, what are you doing with that axe?
Well, you see, it's like this. I remember chopping wood for the fire this afternoon, after it started raining, that is. But I didn't put the axe back in the shed. I forgot. I've been dismembering things a lot lately. When it come to me where I left it, I figured I'd better bring it inside and dry it off, so it don't rust.
That's fine, but why bring it into the living room? Besides, how many times do I have to tell you to use the back door?
1, 2, as many as you want. I ain't counting.
I swear, Rufus, you'll be the death of me yet. Go on into the kitchen and have Mrs. Trent give you a towel.
But I ain't wet. Besides, it quit raining.
I know that. To dry the axe.
Oh, gotcha.
The back door. If that man had a brain, he'd be dangerous.
I heard that.
A penny for your thoughts.
Jordan! Goodness my, I just came down for a breath of fresh air. What are you doing up this late?
Munchies. Want a cookie?
No thanks.
So, did you and Mr. Van Zandt finish the new will?
Yes, it's all ready except for Mr. Starkweather's signature. I see that you've calmed down. I wouldn't blame you if you hated me.
Why should I hate you? I'd make the exact same deal if I were in your shoes.
I'm sure you would, Jordan.
Minerva was right. Being the mother of little Simon will be the next best thing to owning the billions yourself. Aren't you forgetting something, though?
And what would that be?
The little tyke will need a dad, too. Someone to guide him and mold him into a perfect replica of Great Uncle Simon. A heartless, money-making machine.
Oh, you think so?
I know so. And who would be a better father figure than I? You are a very attractive woman, Kathy. We can mix business with pleasure.
Take your crummy hands off of me.
What?
You're getting cookie crumbs on my blouse. And by the way, Jordan, forget it. If I decide that little Simon needs a father after he's born, I will pick a suitable husband then. I don't know who he'll be, but I know he won't be a sleazy, money-hungry slimeball like you, Jordan.
I could kill you, you witch!
I wouldn't try that if I were you. Not when there's a detective in the house.
Aren't you finished in here yet?
I need to make everything all right.
Well, hurry up, girl. Minerva wants you in the kitchen.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't dawdle. Someone left the French doors open. I'll close them for you because I'm so nice. Miss Thompson?
Oh, Miss Trent, you gave me a fright.
I suppose I should be grateful you didn't shoot me. What on earth are you doing? Roaming the house in the middle of the night with a gun in your hand?
Oh, don't worry. I know how to handle a gun. I couldn't sleep, so I thought I'd clean it. I was gonna look in the kitchen for some oil.
I doubt you'll find what you need in there. Unless you want to rub it with Crisco. Do you often carry that thing around with you?
I take it everywhere I go. Daddy taught me to be a crack shot when I was 10. A girl can't be too careful.
Well, I don't think you have anything to worry about at Starkweather Mansion. It's miles away from the nearest town. No one ever comes out this way.
You've never had a burglary or a prowler?
No.
You know, since Great Uncle Simon is so sick and all, it's a wonder somebody hasn't tried to steal something. With his bedroom being on the ground floor, anybody could just break in those French doors and walk into his room and do who knows what.
Like shoot him.
Well, it could happen, as terrible as the thought is. In his condition, how could he defend himself?
He could stick Nurse Withers on them, I suppose. That would frighten away any intruders.
Oh, you're just awful. But you know what? I wouldn't want to tangle with the woman. Where does she sleep?
In the room beyond Mr. Starkweather's, so she can hear him if he rings his bell for her in the night.
Let's see if I remember correctly. When Mama brought me here once when I was a little girl, that room used to be a library. And the one beyond it was a parlor. Am I right?
That's correct. When Mr. Starkweather became too ill to go up and down the stairs, the library was converted into a bedroom for him, and Withers took the parlor.
So they're the only ones who sleep downstairs.
Yes. The servants' quarters are in the attic, under the eaves. We have our own staircase from the kitchen. Why do you ask?
Oh, just curious.
Sorry, excuse me, folks. I thought that little section of dialogue was kind of awkward and suggested to Mr. St. John that he should cut it. But he felt the need to keep an idea of the layout, and he said, "What do you want me to do? Make a blueprint of Starkweather Mansion?" Which I thought was kind of rude. He insisted in leaving the dialogue in, so I did. But it's a bad piece of writing, and I just want you to know I tried to correct it. I'm sorry for the interruption. Continue.
I just want you to know, if you do that again, you're gonna have to bring that script on this stage and play Mrs. Trent yourself.
I am. Sorry.
That was great. I wish I had the nerve. Where are we?
So, you're curious about the layout of the house, are you?
Yeah. I was just curious.
Well, you know what they say. Curiosity killed the cat.
Yes, well, if you'll excuse me.
Wouldn't it be ironic if someone did break in tonight? Of all nights, and...
She looks down at the sofa, picks up a throw pillow with fringe, holds it in her hands, and looks back at the door. Could she be thinking of smothering someone?
Mrs. Starkweather?
Bensonhurst! You nearly frightened me to death.
My apologies, madam. Might I ask what kind of pills you just strewn about the room?
Digitalis for my heart. I have a heart condition. Maybe I should take two.
Digitalis? Doesn't that speed up one's heart rate?
Oh, yes. My little heart is just pumping away.
Perhaps a single dosage will be sufficient. I assume an overdose could be fatal.
Oh, extremely fatal. Or am I being redundant? I suppose fatal is fatal, just like dead is dead. Don't you agree?
Completely. One cannot be deader than someone else. Dead longer, perhaps, but that is only the comparison that comes to mind, really. Might I inquire why you brought the medication into the living room?
Why? That's a very good question. Why did I bring them down here? Oh, I remember. I was going to show them to Miss Withers and see if she might be able to get me some free samples with her medical connections, you know?
But it looks as if your bottle was full already.
Oh, yes, it was, but it never hurts to plan ahead. I'd better pick them up.
Allow me to assist you.
Bensonhurst, can I ask you something?
Be my guest.
Why are you carrying a wrench?
Oh, a wrench? Well, you see, I happen to remember Miss Withers mentioned she thought the valve on the gas heater in Mr. Starkweather's bedroom was a little loose. I thought I would give it an extra turn or two.
Oh, how mechanical of you! We wouldn't want any of that gas to escape into his room, would we?
Naturally not. But first things first, shall we?
I feel like a pigeon pecking popcorn.
You missed one there,
Where?
beside your left kneecap. Left kneecap.
Oh, I got it. They've rolled just everywhere.
Round objects tend to do that, madam.
Oh, thank you again, Bensonhurst. You're very handy.
Oh, no worries, Fiona. It's my pleasure.
Nurse Withers!
Oh, Mrs. Starkweather. What are you doing on the floor with Bensonhurst?
Oh, we're picking up my pills. I dropped my digitalis. Please watch where you put your feet, my dear. Both of them?
I assume Mrs. Starkweather has required an injection. Is there a problem?
Nothing I can't handle. His lungs seem to be somewhat congested, so I took him from his bed and sat him back up in his wheelchair. He can breathe easier from an upright position. Then I gave him an injection of steroids to help open his bronchial passages.
My, where would Uncle Simon be without you?
Dead. Without my help, his heart would have stopped beating a long time ago.
Speaking of which, wasn't there something you wanted to ask Miss Withers, madam?
Was there?
The digitalis.
Oh, yes! Miss Withers, I was wondering if you happen to have any manufacturer samples of digitalis you don't need? I have a heart condition and like to keep a supply handy.
I can see why you would. Yours tend to run out, don't they? I'm so sorry, Mrs. Starkweather, but I'm fresh out of spare drugs. Your uncle requires every pill he's got to keep him going.
Oh my, then we'd better gather up all of mine. Will you help us, my dear?
I suppose.
Is this a private game or anyone can play?
Mr. Davis, we're picking up my spilled pills.
Is that it? I thought you were holding a tiny marble tournament. I'll pass.
Let me give you these, Mrs. Starkweather. I really must return to my duties.
And here are mine.
Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
If you'll excuse me.
Miss Withers, how's the boss?
Bossy. He sent me for a pitcher of fresh drinking water. If I'm not back in a minute, he'll start ringing his handbell for me.
I get.
See what I mean? I'll be right there, Mr. Starkweather.
I gather he rings for you a lot.
Incessantly. When he stops ringing that bell, I'll know he's kicked the bucket. Excuse me.
spoken like a true member of the medical profession. What's with the wrench, Bensonhurst? Got some kind of problem? I can give you a hand.
Thank you, sir, but no, it will wait. I too shall excuse myself.
Well,
You're up kind of late, Mrs. Starkweather.
I couldn't sleep. What about you, Mr. Davis?
I'm a real night owl, and I was hoping I could see Mr. Starkweather, or Simon Starkweather. I haven't met him yet.
Oh, Simon's a sweet boy. I do hope he's all right. I mean, with the storm and all.
He might have pulled off. Maybe let it pass. It's starting to cloud over again. We could be in for a real doozy.
Oh dear, I hope not. I believe I'll go back to my room and lie down.
Good night, Mrs. Starkweather.
Good night.
Coming, Mr. Starkweather! Oh, you're still here.
Yeah, just keep an eye on things.
Thank you. Well, my attention.
You're up too, Mr. Davis.
Yeah, and I'm not the only one. There seems to be a lot more foot traffic passing through the Starkweather mansion. It's almost like rush hour.
I know what you mean. I've been hearing footsteps go past my bedroom door all evening. I'm not surprised, though. We could have guessed Mr. Starkweather's announcement would give his heirs a sleepless night or two.
Between us, Mr. Van Zandt, how do you feel about the whole cloning business?
I'm a lawyer, Mr. Davis. I'm paid to think, not feel. Can Mr. Starkweather be cloned? Definitely. There's no question the technology exists. Should he be cloned? Well, let's just say I wouldn't want to be the first to challenge nature by creating another Lois Van Zandt.
Me too. I'm a simple guy. I've got enough to deal with on my lifetime. The sooner we get this signing over, the sooner I can get out back to the real world, the better.
The new will is finished. Mr. Starkweather could sign it first thing in the morning.
That old boy's still awake. The nurse was just here a minute ago. I heard him ring the bell for her.
Well, in that case, there's no reason he can't sign it now.
That's what I'm thinking. The people in this house are as tense as a bunch of long-tailed cats in a room full of rocking chairs. I know I'd feel better once the boss's plan is a done deal.
I'll go up to my room and get the will. Why don't you let Mr. Starkweather know?
The lights go out abruptly. The room is plunged into near darkness, lit very dimly by the red glow from the coals on the fireplace.
What in the world?
The circuit breaker must have tripped.
But the storm passed hours ago.
I know. I don't like this at all. I don't like this. I'll find Bensonhurst and have him show me where the main breaker is.
Good. I'll let Mr. Starkweather know. We're taking care of it.
Mike nods and steps up to the foyer and takes a small flashlight from his pocket.
Tools of the trade.
It's all right, Mr. Starkweather. Mr. Starkweather?
Hello? Is anybody here? Mrs. Trent Bensonhurst? Anybody?
Kathy, I think there's something wrong with Mr. Starkweather. I don't know where that nurse is.
Oh no. He hasn't signed the will yet, has he?
No. Perhaps he just fainted. We need light. Mr. Davis is trying to...
The lights come back on abruptly. Simon is sprawled in his chair, dead. A few dots might be visible on his robe at the chest. The blood pressure cup is around his neck.
Ah! Mr. Starkweather!
Ugh, what happened? Someone struck me.
Is Mr. Starkweather? Help him.
Is everything alright? I heard a scream.
He's dead. Someone put the blood pressure cuff around his neck and pumped the pressure up to the maximum 300 millimeters of mercury. Mr. Starkweather has been strangled to death.
No way.
Oh no! Mr. Starkweather, who could have done such a thing?
Give me a break. I'd say nearly every one of you in this room are right up on the top of my suspect list.
Me?
Hold it down. Let me check the body.
Those drops on his robe. Is it blood?
I'm not sure.
Do you have any idea what else it could be?
I'll handle it. I'm the detective, remember? What can you tell me, Miss Withers?
After I took Mr. Starkweather the pitcher of water and made sure he was breathing all right, I went up to my room and laid down across my bed. A few minutes later, the lights went out.
I noticed that too.
Mr. Starkweather started ringing his bell. I was lighting a candle when someone struck me with a heavy object. I must have blacked out. When I came to, the lights were on, and...
Yeah, we can take it from there.
You seem to be in charge, Mr. Davis. What do we do now?
Okay. We keep trying the phones until we can get through with the cops. If the lines aren't up by morning, we'll have someone drive into town and report there's been a murder at the Starkweather mansion.
Murder?
Well, maybe the old man did himself in. Or maybe not. Oh, hey, young Mr. Simon. Glad you made it. And boy, do we have a surprise for you.
Wasn't that the most diabolical murder you ever heard? Don't you just love it? The way Mr. St. John's mind works? No wonder he went bonkers. Hi everyone, I was just making sure the cast knows who the murderer is based on the counted votes. There are a couple things Mr. St. John intended to put into the second act once he made up his mind on who the murderer's lines and actions were, and the clues that led to the person's identity. The cast will work these into the show. I wanted you to know so you can still continue to play armchair detective and try to guess the culprit's identity. I guess that's everything for now. Relax and enjoy the conclusion of Murders in the Air.
Dead. Dead. I can't believe grandfather's dead.
Well, he is, Cousin Simon. He's the deadest person I ever saw.
Funny you should say that. Bensonhurst and I were discussing the degrees of dead earlier, and...
Mother, please.
And he was murdered.
There's no doubt about it. You saw the body.
Poor grandfather. If only I've gotten here sooner, maybe...
How didn't we know you got here sooner?
What?
For all we know, you could have arrived hours ago, parked your car out of sight, slipped into the house, and killed the lights moments before you killed Simon Starkweather.
Come on, that's ridiculous. Why would I kill him?
I'd say a third of $50 billion of fortune is a pretty good reason to knock somebody off. If Mr. Starkweather has signed that new will...
Okay, but I didn't know about the new will. I wasn't here when grandfather revealed the crazy cloning scheme you guys told me about.
It'd be easy enough to hide outside the French doors and eavesdrop on the conversation.
Why would I hide? I was expected here. I told you what happened.
Tell me again.
All right. I had to creep at a snail's pace on that long country road from town. Rain was lashing the windshield so hard I could barely see. The wind was snapping branches off the trees and flinging them against the car. It was like driving through a hurricane. When I got to the wooden bridge that spans the stream, which flows around the estate, I had to stop. The stream turned into a raging river and had torn the bridge to pieces. I remembered a place about a mile from there where a tree had fallen across stream years ago. I used to play on it when I was a kid. I found the dead tree and managed to walk across it, even though the rising water nearly covered the trunk. Apparently, I got here just after Grandfather was murdered.
That's a good story, but it sounds rehearsed.
Not nearly enough. But it's the truth, I swear it.
Maybe, but I'm still not crossing you off my suspect list.
And who else do you have on that list, Mr. Davis?
Everyone in this house except Mr. Van Zandt and Miss Collins. They had a heck of a lot to lose, or a lot to, if your grandfather didn't sign that will. If he only had lived for a few more minutes, as it turned out, they were left out in the cold.
Especially me. Lois had other clients, but now I'm among the unemployed.
I'm sure once the estate is settled, we can arrange for you to be given a generous severance check.
Take it out of your portion if you like. Mother and I will pass.
So will I. Nothing personal, of course.
Oh, of course.
Mr. Davis, what do we do now?
Simon's story reminded me. We could play some bridge.
The way I see it, we all stay tight until daybreak. Then I'll have you show me the way to your car. You'll drive me into town. I'll report what I've seen and what I know to the police. We'll notify them that the bridge is out. At my guess, the cops will fly in by helicopter. They'll need to get the body out to the coroner's office, examine the crime scene, and take your statements. Once the homicide detective is assigned to this case, I'm out of here.
All right, but you're a detective too, and you were right here when the murder occurred. You have a better chance at solving the murder than anyone else right now.
Sorry, but now Mr. Starkweather's dead. I'm off the payroll. Once I give the big boys my statement, I'm finished.
Okay, I'll hire you to stay. I won't have the money to pay you till I get my portion of the inheritance, but if you're willing to wait.
You're on, kid. I figured you're good for the dough. Incidentally, that offer dropped you to the bottom of the suspect list. Well, I might as well start getting my salary.
How can we help, Mr. Davis?
First question I want to know is as to where everyone's whereabouts when Mr. Starkweather was murdered.
Establish everyone's alibis.
Yeah. Also, I need to know anything about all of the staff, what they might have seen or heard in the last few hours that might lead us to discovering the killer's identity.
Clues.
You got it. Motives, alibis, and clues. That's what a detective has to work with. The motives in this case are obvious. The other elements aren't yet, but hopefully they'll only be by finish.
That sounds like a good plan to me. Whom do you want to start with, Mr. Davis?
Since you're paying the freight, call me Mike. How about you, Miss Thompson? Do you mind being first?
Well, I'm awfully tired, but if I have to.
You don't have to, Paula. None of us do.
What do you mean, dear?
I mean, Davis isn't a police officer. We don't have to tell him the time of day.
You're right, Jordan. But why would you refuse to cooperate? Unless you have something to hide.
Now look, Simon, don't start accusing me of murder unless you can prove it.
Simon has a point. Do you want me to tell the cops that everyone cooperated except you?
Oh, alright, I'll answer your dumb questions. But first I'm going to take Mother upstairs and have her lie down until you're ready for her. She's getting up in her years and she needs the rest.
Why, thank you very much, Jordan. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, but I'm not Betty White either.
Don't get excited, Mother. Are you okay? Do you need your digitalis?
No, but if I did, there's probably one or two pills still under the sofa. I had a little accident with my pill bottle.
Come on. You can call when you're ready for us.
I assume you'll want to question everyone in private. You can wait with me in my room if you'd like, Kathy. I want to read over the old will again, since it'll remain the official one.
Sure thing, Lois. Excuse us?
I'd like to stay. Since I wasn't here earlier, hearing everyone's statement would give me a clear picture of what happened tonight at the mansion.
You're the boss now. I'm particularly interested in what happened between Mr. Starkweather announced he was changing the will and the time the body was found.
How long was that?
Several hours. Well, Miss Thompson, did you observe anything which occurred in the last time frame that might help us?
Well, I was very disappointed by Great Uncle Simon's announcement, as you might well imagine. I mean, I can understand why you might want to clone Tom Cruise, but Great Uncle Simon? No offense, Cousin Simon, but your grandfather was not a very nice person. Anyway, I spent most of that time in my room, but I did come downstairs once on a little errand. I was outside the kitchen door when I heard Minerva and that cute little maid Nancy talking.
What's the matter with you, girl? Did you leave your mind in the other room? You haven't heard a word I said.
I'm sorry, Minerva. I'm still confused.
About what? Has that no good scamp Jordan been bothering you?
Jordan? I mean, Mr. Starkweather? What makes you think that?
When I walked in on the two of you in the living room, you were standing mighty close together, real lovey-dovey like. What was he saying to you?
I think he wanted me to...
To do something you didn't want to do?
Yes, but it's not what you're thinking.
I'll bet. He better stay away from you. If that boy tries anything, I'll cut him down to size.
Minerva, no, he's not interested in me. I heard him with Miss Collins.
Ha! I get the picture. When you lost your million, he lost interest in you, didn't he? He's following the money right to the Collins girl, isn't he?
He proposed to her, but she laughed at him.
Good for her. Serves him right, the lazy bum.
Don't call him that.
Ah, you're hung up on him, aren't you? Don't be a fool, Nancy. Jordan will just use you and toss you aside like he's done a dozen other girls I know of.
Maybe he's ready to settle down now. If Mr. Starkweather hadn't changed his will, Jordan would be free to...
Free to do what?
Nothing. If we're finished, I'd like to go to my room now.
Go on. Nancy?
Yes, ma'am?
Lock your door.
Excuse me, that little scene in the foyer was a flashback. It showed a conversation Paula overheard before the murder. The other character stories, well, a portion of them, will be shown in flashbacks as well. Isn't that clever? I just wanted to make sure you got that. That's all. Sorry.
That girl is really asking for it.
So tell me, Mrs. Trent, did you hear or see anything before Mr. Starkweather's murder?
Did I? Anything suspicious? I suppose you call toting a gun around the house suspicious, even though Mr. Starkweather wasn't shot to death.
A gun? Well, who has a gun?
Besides me?
Paula Thompson, that's who. Claims she's a regular Annie Oakley. And she mentioned how easy it'd be for someone to come through the French doors and kill Mr. Starkweather.
Did she now?
Ask her yourself.
Anything else?
I did happen to overhear a rather odd conversation between Rufus and Mrs. Starkweather. I had gone upstairs to distribute candles to everyone in case of a power outage, which turns out to be very useful, as you know. I was about to turn onto the corridor to the west wing when I saw Mrs. Starkweather at the far end, near the stairs.
Do I have enough? Oh dear.
Hey, Miss Starkweather!
Roof! You scared me out of a year's growth.
Oh, that's okay, ma'am. At our age, we all do our going sideways now, don't we?
I certainly hope not. What are you doing with that television set? It doesn't look like a portable.
Oh, well, it is now. I'm borrowing it from one of the guest rooms that ain't in use.
Whatever for?
Well, you see, I ain't sleepy. So I thought I'd watch some television, but the set in my room is all messed up. The color, I mean. Everybody on that blamed channel is green. Like, Batman is green, Glee is green, Brooklyn Nine-Nine is green. I mean, heck, it looks like every station is sorry Kermit the Frog.
How disconcerting.
Ha, you can say that again. Whatever that means. Ooh, are them Tic Tacs? I wouldn't mind a few. I can still taste the crowd Minerva served the staff for supper.
These? Oh no, Rufus, you mustn't take any of these. They're for my heart. If you ate any of these pills, they could kill you.
Oh, in that case then, I'll pass. You better be careful not to leave them lying around though. If somebody ate a bunch by mistake, they'll kill over dead.
That's entirely possible.
And like, what would they put in their death certificate? Cause of death, bad breath?
It isn't a laughing matter. I'll be careful with them. I need these pills, you see. I need every one of them.
So Rufus had an axe in the house?
Yes, Master Simon. I instructed him to chop some firewood earlier.
I'm surprised you trust him with an axe.
Personally, I wouldn't trust him with a butter knife. I was simply relaying Mr. Starkweather's instructions.
Was there anything else of interest you happened to notice?
Well, just once, sir. Earlier tonight, I was coming from the kitchen when I saw Master Jordan at the door to Mr. Starkweather's room. It was the hall door, not that one. His behavior was somewhat furtive. I got the impression he was about to enter when the door opened and Miss Withers came out. It was very apparent her unexpected appearance startled Master Jordan.
Well, what do you want?
Oh, I was gonna check on Great Uncle Simon, of course.
No need. That's what I'm paid to do.
Well, how is he?
Still breathing, if that's what you're wondering about.
How much time do you suppose he has left, Miss Withers?
Let's just say he needn't start reading any long novels. Or even a short story.
But you think he'll make it through the night?
Well, I think Mr. Starkweather will keep his heart beating through sheer determination, long enough to sign that new will. That is what you want to know, isn't it?
Why, you misjudge me, Miss Withers.
Give it a rest, Jordan. You'd love to see him drop dead before daybreak, just like nearly everyone else in this house.
Including you. $1 million is a fortune. A lot of people would kill for that much money.
If that's a hint, forget it. As Mr. Starkweather's nurse, I'd be the prime suspect if his death appeared to be anything but by natural causes.
Suspecting and proving are two different things.
I'm gonna forget you said that. Good night, Jordan. It's true. Jordan Starkweather did hint that I was in a position to end his great uncle's life in a way that would appear natural. I assume Bensonhurst also told you that I refused?
He did, but you could have changed your mind.
And then killed him with a blood pressure cuff? That would have been foolish. Hardly what you'd call by natural causes.
I agree. The manner of which he was murdered makes no sense at all. Whoever did it.
It's as if the killer was flaunting the deeds in our faces.
Why would they do that?
That's a good question. Tell me, Miss Withers, if you had to pick a likely suspect for a murder, who would it be?
Off the record, That Thompson girl, his great niece, is too goody-goody for my taste. Oh, those Southern girls can pour on the charm when they want to, but Scarlett O'Hara was pretty ruthless when you get down to it.
We've been told Cousin Paula has a gun.
Well, see what I mean? I dare say she and Jordan both were desperate to get their hands on Mr. Starkweather's billions. I overheard them talking earlier this evening. It was shortly after Mr. Van Zant's announcement about the new will. They didn't notice me in the corridor.
Well, what are we gonna do?
Do? What can we do? It's out of our hands.
Don't be such a wimp, Cousin Jordan. That money rightfully belongs to us. There's got to be a way to get it.
I know. Maybe we can break the will if we have Great Uncle Simon declared insane.
Now, I've thought of that, but it won't work. If cloning was just a wild theory, we probably could, but it isn't. It's been done. His plan to be the first person to clone himself might be bizarre, but it isn't insane. We'd lose the case.
And probably spend the pittance we're gonna inherit on the lawyers.
Like that Miss Van Sant,
What is it? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em.
Huh?
I just came up with a way to get Miss Van to put me on her team.
Well, what is it?
Fend for yourself, Jordan. If you'll excuse me, I need to talk to that lawyer.
If you can't beat him. Oh yeah. Now where would Kathy be?
It's true, Jordan did suggest we get married, but it wasn't what you'd call a romantic proposal. It was more like a business proposition.
Well, you were going to have access to billions. What did Jordan have to offer you?
Himself, I guess. In my opinion, that fortune hunter wouldn't be worth 2 cents.
Then you did turn him down?
Jordan is an attractive man in a smarmy sort of way, but any woman who married him would be a fool. And believe me, Mike, I'm no fool.
I knew that from the time we started working together.
You were smart enough to volunteer to carry grandfather's clone.
Look, Simon, once Mr. Starkweather made up his mind to clone himself, there's nothing that we could have done. There was nothing to change it. He would have found a surrogate mother somewhere, so it might as well have been me.
I understand. I just think the whole idea was creepy.
Well, you're a lot nicer about it than the other heirs were.
For example?
Paula, for one. She hasn't given up hope on getting her hands on Mr. Starkweather's money.
How do you know?
I was in Lois's room with her when Paula knocked on the door. She asked Lois to step into the corridor where she and her could speak privately. Lois went out with her, but she didn't close the door completely, so I couldn't help but overhear their conversation.
We're very busy, Miss Thompson.
Preparing that new will?
Yes.
Mr. Van Zant, you're a lawyer. Are you sure this cloning business is legal? You could lose your license to practice, couldn't you, if...
The process will be performed in Belgium, as we told you. Our laws don't apply there.
What about ethics? Haven't lawyers been disbarred before for behavior that was unethical, if not illegal?
What's your point?
I want in on the deal. You can pay me from that trust fund to the baby's nanny or whatever. I don't care what you name the position. If you refuse, I shall be forced to report you to the bar association. Isn't that what you call it?
It is. Let me give you a little free legal advice, Miss Thompson. In the first place, if you make any accusations against me before the cloning procedure has been completed successfully, I'll sue you for the $50,000 you're due to receive and everything you own, and I'll get it. In the second place, once the baby is on the way, I plan to close down my office. I shall devote all my time to Kathy and little Simon's care. At that point, it won't bother me in the least if I should be disbarred. You don't have to be a lawyer to administer an estate. Anyone can do it. So you see, young woman, your threats are meaningless. In fact, as an officer of the court, I should report your feeble attempt at extortion to the police.
Well, I wasn't.
Save it. Take your silly southern self out of my sight, and I might be willing to forget it.
Oh, right, I'll go, you lawyer.
Excuse me.
Yes, Mrs. Trent?
I found stuff with the Christmas candles I stored away. I thought it might be a good idea to pass them out in case of power failure. I suggest you keep one and some matches nearby.
Well, that's very thoughtful. Thank you. Kathy's in my room. I'll take one for her also.
Miss Thompson?
Oh, all right. I'm going to my room. There's something that I need to get.
What's the matter with her?
Let's just say she's a poor loser. Miss Thompson played a race, and I trumped it, in a manner of speaking. I'll give this to Kathy.
If I remember correctly, when Kathy Collins saw Mr. Starkweather's body and screamed, you ran in the front door. What have you been doing outside, Rufus?
Wait. Was I outside? Yeah, I guess I was. Oh, wait, I remember now. I had borrowed a TV from a guest room because,
We heard why, Rufus.
You did? Huh, small house. News sure travel fast around here.
All the actors on your set were green.
It sure was. Looked like the Martians had landed or something. Anyways, when I hooked up the new set, the picture didn't come in too good. Everybody was fuzzy as a woolly worm. I went outside to try and turn the antenna around.
On the roof?
I mean, duh. It wouldn't do much good to put in the basement now, would it? I was about to get a tall ladder out of the storage shed when I heard the gull holler bloody murder. Murder. Anyways, if it wasn't even that bloody.
Did you see or hear anything outside?
I saw an owl and heard a bunch of bullfrogs.
I meant humans.
Yeah. I saw Mr. Jordan on the patio when I was coming in. Don't know what he was doing out there.
Earlier tonight, did you hear anyone talking about the new will?
I mean, who didn't? Minerva and old Bensonhurst was talking about that. Just didn't talk about much else. They was going about it in the kitchen after Mr. Starkweather croaked.
And what were they saying?
That it ain't fair. That's what. That they worked super hard for Mr. Starkweather all these years and should have got their millions. Me? I don't care too much else. I figured $50,000 would buy me a new TV with a real big shiny screen TV. I guess now I might even get me 2 shiny screen TVs.
Bensonhurst and Minerva.
Yeah, those two. The more Minerva thought about it, the madder she got, and whew, she's like the Hulk. The woman's got temper. She was about to ready to storm into Mr. Starkweather's room and give him a piece of her mind.
You mustn't go in there, Minerva.
Who's gonna stop me?
I shall if necessary.
You and whose army?
Now listen, I totally agree with you that we were wronged, but a confrontation is not the answer.
Oh yeah? Then what is?
Have patience. Mr. Starkweather hasn't signed the will yet. Perhaps he'll change his mind by morning.
We should live so long.
No, Minerva. He should live so long.
So, what were you doing outside at the time of the murder, Mrs. Starkweather?
Just getting a breath of fresh air. Anything wrong with that?
Not if you remained outside.
Whoa, what do you mean?
When I made a cursory examination of the crime scene, I noticed that Miss Withers had left the window raised a couple of inches to let some of that fresh air in. Anyone could have climbed in and...
Are you accusing me of killing Great Uncle Simon?
Calm down, Mrs. Starkweather. I'm not accusing anyone yet.
Besides, from what we've heard, Cousin Jordan, It seems that trying to con someone else into doing your bidding is more of your style.
Who told you that?
I'll ask the questions if you don't mind. I repeat, what were you doing outside?
If you must know, Kathy and I had a disagreement and I blew up. I went out to cool off. Or have you already heard about that?
I question, you answer, remember? Let me ask you this. If you didn't murder Mr. Starkweather, who do you think did?
Look, I'm not saying for sure that she did it, but have you talked to that little maid, Nancy?
Why her, Cousin Jordan?
The girl has a crush on me. I flirt with the ladies a lot, but I did nothing to lead her on. I know that she was upset about the new will. Not just that she would lose her money, but that I would lose even more. I had strolled around the house and was outside the kitchen door when I heard Nancy talking to Miss Withers.
Can I do something for you, Miss Withers?
I needed fresh water to put by Mr. Starkweather's bedside. I got it.
That poor man. When he had the attack and lost his breath in the living room, I realized what you meant before when you said the slightest shock could prove to be fatal.
Exactly.
The slightest shock. His bell!
I must go.
Yes, we wouldn't want anything to happen to him, would we? I was shocked when I heard Mr. Starkweather had included me in his will. I didn't even think he noticed me.
Then you must have received two surprises to hear you inherited $1 million and immediately discovered that it was being taken away.
Well, 3 surprises, actually. Now you're wealthy again.
Oh, Mr. Starkweather, I was thrilled to be told your grandfather was leaving me even $50,000. With that, I could go to college like you and get a good education.
Well, now you can do anything you want, Nancy. What do you want to do?
I don't know. I haven't been thinking about myself much.
Well, who has been on your mind, Nancy?
I
Jordan Starkweather, perhaps? You're very fond of him, aren't you?
Who told you that?
Cousin Jordan himself, for one. He implied you might even be willing to kill for him.
He what? How could he say such a thing?
I'm sorry to hurt you, Nancy, but now you see what Jordan's really like. He's out for himself, and he'll trample anyone who gets in his way.
I guess I knew that. Minerva tried to warn me. I even heard him propose to Miss Collins. She turned him down and later laughed about it when she told her friend, Mr. Van Zandt. I was taking fresh towels to the guest rooms later when I heard them talking. You think Jordan is cold-hearted, but Miss Collins is just as bad as he is.
Oh my goodness, can you believe it? Those soulful little gazes might work on some innocent young thing like that maid Nancy, but he learned quick enough that I'm no pushover.
I wish I'd been there to see it. It's time Jordan met his match. I could tell Nancy about some of the maids who'd worked here before her. His Playboy days will be over soon enough, though.
What do you mean?
Up until now, Mr. Starkweather has given Jordan, as well as Fiona, Paula, and young Simon a generous allowance. Once he passes on, the $50,000 bequest will be the last they get of the Starkweather fortune. They'll have to learn what it's like to work for a living.
Well, Simon's almost out of school, so he'll do fine. But the others, they'll go through their money in no time. And then what kind of jobs can they get? Can you picture Paula behind the desk at a car rental agency?
Or Jordan driving cars out of the lot for customers.
And what will Fiona do? Sell Avon?
Can I get anything for you, Cousin Fiona? Maybe a glass of water?
No, dear, I'm fine. Mr. Davis, I want you to know that my Jordan couldn't have done, oh dear, what was done to Uncle Simon. He was with me in my room all evening.
You know that can't be true, Mrs. Starkweather. Your son told us himself that he went outside. And I saw you in here earlier with Bensonhurst and Minerva.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right. Maybe that was last night he sat with me.
Maybe it was.
Now I know why gadgets on his show. It's so easy to get confused.
Concentrate on tonight, Mrs. Starkweather. Do you recall seeing anything suspicious?
Suspicious? Well, I saw Uncle Simon's body with that horrible thing all around his neck. I call that suspicious.
Well, Mike means before that, Cousin Fiona.
Oh, before. Think. I don't know if this is the sort of thing you mean, but
Yes.
it was right after we were told about the new will and had all gone upstairs. I was going past that secretary's door when I heard the housekeeper and her inside. They were speaking quite loudly, so I couldn't help but overhear.
What are you doing in my room, Mrs. Trent?
I was checking all the guest rooms to make sure there's extra blankets in each. I suppose you're very pleased with yourself, Miss Collins.
And why do you say that?
It all worked out, just as you planned.
I really don't know what you mean.
I think you do. I understand now why you brought all those magazines from out of town and left them lying around where Mr. Starkweather could see it. You've done it for months.
What magazines?
Don't play dumb with me, Miss Collins. Those news magazines and scientific journals, I've seen them. They all had one thing in common. Articles about cloning. I didn't realize until tonight, but now it's obvious what you were doing. You planted the idea into Mr. Starkweather's head to clone himself.
And what if I did? There are no laws against sharing ideas now, are there?
I'm sure your lawyer friend would say no, since you're in this together. But that doesn't mean it's right. I think what you're planning to do is hideous.
Well, to be perfectly frank, I couldn't care less what you think. Now get out.
Ooh, starting to give orders already, are you? I'll leave. But remember one thing, young lady. You're not the queen yet, and you won't be until Mr. Starkweather's name is on the dotted line, assuming that ever happens.
Kathy told me about Mrs. Trent's accusations that she engineered the cloning business, possibly with my help. Apparently, Mrs. Starkweather reported their conversation accurately, which is something of a surprise.
Well, is it true? Did you and Kathy give grandfather the idea to clone himself?
I don't really think it's relevant to the case at hand, Simon. Even if we did, we weren't breaking any laws. Don't you agree, Mr. Davis?
No laws that I can think of.
Then shouldn't we focus on the law that was broken? I'm referring to the murder, of course.
You're right as usual, Mr. Van Zandt. Can you volunteer any information that might help us?
I will tell you this. Earlier this evening, I was going to the kitchen to ask Minerva for a pot of coffee. It was apparent that Kathy and I were going to be working late, and I felt caffeine might help us stay awake. Minerva wasn't there, but Rufus was. I heard him talking to Fiona Starkweather. Their conversation was very, peculiar.
Good heavens, Rufus. What are you doing with that axe?
Oh, this whole thing? I bought it from the wood pile to dry it off good. Shutting it up too. You wanna see?
Goodness, no. Put it away.
Maybe I better, after it's hurt somebody. Or even kill some.
That's a horrible thought.
Ain't it though? I get those sometimes. Do you? Ooh! I still see that you got those poison pills, eh?
Digitalis isn't a poison, it's a stimulant. You just have to be careful not to take too many.
But I see you had a lot more in the bottle when I saw you upstairs. Oops! I hope you haven't gone and overdosed. I think I can figure out how to do that mouth-to-mouth stuff.
If you bring those lips any closer, I will snatch that axe out of your hands and chop them off.
Just trying to help, Miss Starkweather.
Well, don't. There are some fates worse than death. I assure you, however, that I am fine. I simply spilled the pills earlier in the living room and I wasn't able to find them all.
You spilled them. Huh. I hope Minerva don't find none. She fixes Mrs. Starkweather's meals, and she's mighty mad at him right now.
What are you suggesting?
Oh, nothing. Was there something you needed in the kitchen?
Oh, I came to see if Minerva had any of those delicious hors d'oeuvres left over.
I can look for you.
Never mind. I seem to have lost my appetite.
Mr. Starkweather's meals? What do you want to know about them?
Who did he dine with? Did he eat the same food as everyone else?
Mr. Starkweather was on a very restricted diet. Low salt, low fat, so I had to prepare his meals separately. Why do you want to know about the food? You think there's something wrong with my cooking?
You're a great cook, Minerva. The leg of lamb you served tonight was wonderful.
Yes, well, I've often been told I have terrific legs. So what's the problem?
Forget it. You told me what I needed to know. Changing the subject, do you remember who was in the kitchen when the circuit breaker tripped and the lights went out? Before I got there, I mean.
The blackout? I'm not sure. Let me think. I was in the pantry checking the supplies for breakfast. When it went dark, it took me a moment to get the candle Mrs. Trent gave me from my pocket and light it.
Minerva? Nancy? Is everyone alright?
Rufus is here, and I'm fine. I was out back when I saw the lights go out.
I was in my room when everything went dark. What happened?
Uh-oh. Looks like Bensonhurst forgot to pay the light bill.
Keep that top and don't forget to pay your wages.
What in blazes is going on?
Apparently the store knocked out electricity. My candles did come in handy.
Remind me to give you a gold star later. Bensonhurst, can't you get the electricity back on?
That's exactly what I came to find out, Mr. Bensonhurst.
The circuit breaker is right over here.
I hope they hurry. I don't like the dark.
Oh, was that quick enough for you? I'll get back to my chore.
What did he even come inside for? The idiot tracked water all over my clean floor.
Why Mr. Starkweather doesn't fire him, I'll never know.
Any luck?
Yeah, it was all right there. It should be enough to pinpoint the murder, but I wish I had more. It could take weeks to get the results. If the will is probated, the killer gets his or her inheritance, and before then, they could disappear. You can buy a new identity easily enough for $1 million, or there must be some way we can nab a guilty party tonight.
I was hoping we'd learn more from questioning the suspects.
Me too, but they were busy trying to make each other look guilty. They didn't really reveal much about themselves. Sometimes the slightest.
What is it?
Simon, move your foot. Here, on the rug. Oh, I think it's... Yes. What I was doing is so insignificant. I barely noticed. It's... Simon, I know who murdered your grandfather.
Who?
I'll tell everyone as soon as I gather the evidence. Quick, go tell Bensonhurst and get... I need everyone here immediately.
Yes, sir.
Minerva has sent me to see if you'd like a pot of coffee.
Never mind that.
Go upstairs and tell everyone to come down here on the double.
Yes, sir.
Mike takes a clear plastic sandwich bag from his pocket and picks something up from the floor and drops it into the bag.
I don't think the police chief will mind if I use the sandwich bag to gather evidence. I don't think she'll mind at all.
It's very late, Mr. Davis, or very early, depending on how you look at it. If no one else is going to ask, I will. Why did you call us together at this hour?
Okay, it's been a long night. I'm sure all of you are very tired because I know I am. But I feel like we would all rest easier if we know who murdered Simon Starkweather.
Oh my god.
You
Wait,
figured it out?
Really?
You mean you've discovered who killed Great Uncle Simon?
I'm pretty sure I have, as I'm going to show you in the next few minutes.
I'm amazed, Mike. How did you figure it out?
First, I had to figure the question that bothered me from the beginning. It would have been so easy to make the murder appear like Mr. Starkweather died of natural causes, but a suggestion from Jordan Starkweather made to Miss Smithers. For example, Mrs. Starkweather and her son could have given some of her digitalis, and
I didn't.
so could several others among you who were in the room, no doubt, when she spilled her pills earlier tonight. Miss Withers could have achieved the same goal by injecting an air bubble into Mr. Starkweather's bloodstream, but
Yeah, right.
it was also very easy for all of you to have stolen one of the needles and done it yourself. It's also highly probable that some of you considered frightening the old man to death. Minerva with her knife, Miss Thompson with her gun, Rufus with his axe, Bensonhurst with the wrench.
That's nothing but an accusation.
Are endless. Why would the murderer choose to put a blood pressure cuff around the victim's neck to inflate it until he's strangled to death? The answer is so simple. I feel foolish that I didn't realize sooner what happened.
Well, might one ask what that is?
Obviously, when the cuff was put on Mr. Starkweather, he was already dead.
Already dead?
What?
Am I right, Mr. Van Zant?
Mr. Van Zandt?
Mr. Van Zandt.
This.
It had been you. We were all here together when the lights went out. Mr. Starkweather began to ring his bell when he went to find Bensonhurst, and you checked in on Mr. Starkweather. His killer must have murdered the man and slipped into Miss Withers' room seconds before you found the body.
That's what I figured too.
But Mr. Van Zandt, why would you put the cuff around his neck?
As our able detective has surmised, the murderer made it appear that Mr. Starkweather had a heart attack. Death seemed to have indeed been due to natural causes. There was no doubt in my mind, however, that someone in this house had killed him. I knew that under the circumstances, the coroner would have no reason to perform an autopsy on the body, nor would the police conduct an investigation. I wasn't allowed to let my employer's murderer get away scot-free, though. I noticed the blood pressure cuff on the bed, so I put it around his neck and I inflated it before wheeling him into this room.
And your plan worked. No one would ever question the fact that he was murdered.
So young Simon hired Mr. Davis to find the killer.
Which I have. That was very naughty of you, Mr. Van Zandt. For a while, your little ploy distracted me from the main problem instead of focusing on who did it. I kept wondering, why would they do it that way? Once I solved it, that piece of the puzzle, the rest came easy.
Sorry, Mr. Davis, but if you discovered the identity of the murderer, then the ends seem to have justified the means.
I imagine the police will agree, and might even look the fact that you're guilty of tampering with evidence and a crime scene.
If not, I'm on very good terms with the local judges.
Wait a minute. How do you know Mr. Van Zandt didn't kill Great Uncle Simon himself?
There was no motive.
Oh, yeah.
Well, don't keep us in suspense, Mike. Tell us, who killed Mr. Starkweather?
I'll do better than that. I'll show you. Alright, just bear with me.
He reaches around the archway and snaps on a light switch.
I imagine all of you have the candles Miss Trent distributed earlier tonight. To keep you in case of a blackout, take them out, please, and light them.
Everyone except Mike and Simon takes their candles from their pocket and lights it.
Ooh, isn't this nice? Very Christmassy.
When I examined Mr. Starkweather's body, I found what first I thought was blood on his robe, but actually, on close inspection, it was a different substance entirely. I forgot that moment, but when I was interrogating you all individually, I noticed one of you were scraping your thumbnail. I thought it as a nervous gesture, but it was more of a trigger of guiltiness. As it turned out, I didn't realize the significance of that gesture until Minerva's testimony. She reminded me of those who gathered in the kitchen when the lights went out, and all of you got the candles. A few minutes ago, I noticed these.
Mike pulls a plastic sandwich bag from his pocket.
On the floor by the sofa, I had the link I needed to identify the murderer. Thin scrapings of red tallow from the killer's thumbnail, tallow that matched the red drops on Mr. Starkweather's body, tallow from the red candle the murderer was holding when she killed Simon Starkweather, tallow that which one of you are among you are holding. Paula Thompson.
Paula?
Paula?
No. There might have been other red candles.
There aren't. I remember thinking when we took them down after Christmas, we had to buy some more red ones for next year.
Is that the only evidence you have to offer the police? This candle?
No, Paula. I have better proof than that. I just examined Mr. Starkweather's body, and as I was moving throughout the room, I glanced at everyone's wrists and hands and noticed there were several thin scratches on your wrist, made by Mr. Starkweather, no doubt as he struggled for his life.
Mike pulls another plastic sandwich bag from his pocket.
I bet my reputation that these skin samples I was able to scrape from the under the fingernails of Mr. Simon Starkweather come from you. It's easy enough to prove. I've met quite a few experts in DNA testing in the past 6 months.
Bravo, Mr. Davis.
Well,
I don't suppose you'd consider cloning those scrappings and putting the new me in jail, would you? I didn't think so. Well, Miss Van Zandt, I guess my biggest mistake was trying to cross a lawyer. I might have caused you to lose access to Great Uncle Simon's billions, but you definitely got your revenge.
so why don't you tell us what happened?
I might as well. You figured out the main details anyway. I was furious with Great Uncle Simon for building up our hopes and then dashing them to the ground. I thought a man that cruel doesn't deserve to live. I listened at his door to the hallway and slipped inside when I was sure he was alone. He was sitting in his wheelchair, still awake. I went to him, gripped the handles of his wheelchair, and leaned right down into his face. I told him I thought what he was planning to do was monstrous. I told him he doesn't deserve to live. I told him I was gonna kill him. Then I reached for his throat. He was terrified. He wheeled backward in his chair and slammed into the bedside table. The impact sent his reading lamp crashing to the floor and the pitcher of water right on top of it. When the water hit the lamp, it short-circuited and blew the circuit breaker.
So you didn't cause the blackout deliberately?
No, it nearly ruined everything. But I had the candle and matches in my pocket. I managed to light the candle and hold it with one hand while I grabbed the oxygen mask off his chair with the other. I clamped the mask down hard over his nose and mouth. He couldn't breathe, of course. He made a feeble attempt to fight back with one hand while he rang the bell with the other. But all he could manage was a few insignificant scratches on my wrist, as you noticed. That and caused me to spill those drops of candle wax on his robe. I'm not sure if he died from suffocation or a heart attack, but it was all over in seconds. The old man wasn't able to do much, but I guess it was enough to pin his murder on me.
And then?
I put the mask back on his wheelchair, blew out the candle, put it in my pocket, and slipped through the connecting door to Miss Withers' room. Her back was to me. She had just managed to find a candle and was lighting it. I grabbed a brass candlestick from the bureau and struck her with it. She fell to the floor and her candle went out. I suppose this is when you were busy turning my apparent natural death into an apparent murder, Miss Van Zandt. I slipped from the door into the hallway. A few minutes later, Kathy screamed. I joined the rest of you as you ran in here.
I'm sure you were just as surprised to see the blood pressure cuff around Mr. Simon Starkweather's neck.
Well, I was, but what could I do? It was easy to guess what Miss Van Zandt had pulled. I would have loved to kill you too for ruining everything, but I didn't dare try, of course. Until now.
Paula shoots to her feet and grabs the gun from her pocket.
At this point, I don't have anything to lose, do I? Don't anybody move.
Easy, easy. You don't want to do anything you might regret.
It's too late for that advice, Mr. Davis. Get up. You're coming with me.
Where can we go? The bridge is washed out.
I know where the fallen tree is that Simon mentioned. Simon, throw your car keys on the table.
Simon takes his keys from his pocket and throws them onto the table. Paula picks them up and drops them into her pocket.
You'll never get away.
I think I might. The phones are still out and all of your cars are on this side of the stream. It would take you hours to walk to town and notify the police. I'll be long gone by then.
What about me?
I would have committed the perfect murder if you hadn't interfered. What do you think I'm going to do with you?
Not a thing. If I can help it.
Lois thrusts his candle at Paula's hand, burning her.
Ah!
Paula releases him. Lois jumps aside, and Mike draws his gun and fires.
Hold it right there.
Mike, holding his gun on Paula, crosses to the archway and snaps on the light.
Are you all right?
I'm fine.
You burned me!
Consider it a preview of the afterlife.
Mike crosses to Paula, pulling handcuffs from his pocket.
I always keep these with me. You never know when they might come in handy. Let's have them.
Well, Mike, allow me to tell Mr. Simon to pay you a big old check.
No problem. Well, you're going to spend a long, long time behind bars. What do you have to say for yourself?
Do you think the prison has a chapter of the DAR?
Wait, don't play that yet. It's called Pepper.
Oh God, what's the matter now?
This telegram just came for you. They said it's urgent.
I'm sorry about this, but I better see what it's about. It's from Mr. St. John. He came out of his drug-induced coma, and he's awake. And a fantastic solution to the play is crystal clear now. Really? Yes, this is brilliant. This new ending is unbelievable. Better than any of the other conclusions he came up with before. You simply have to see it. It may take a few minutes for me to go over the changes with the cast, but I'm sure they can handle it. I have some clues I need to go over in the first act, so I guess we'll have to do the whole play again.
You gotta be kidding.
We're not doing this whole play.
No.
Are you
It's not.
Absolutely not.
I would have never thought of that.